I feel like a sailor in this striped shirt. Also, I cuss like a sailor. Hence my nickname, Sailor Sam. Hello everyone, it is Sam and I hope you guys are having a lovely day today. So as many of you guys may know, I'm a big fan of Anne of Green Gables and the Anne of Green Gables series. And in the honor of the fact that Netflix is releasing the new Anne of Green Gables series this month on May 12th, which I'm very excited to see how they'll do it, I figured I would do a whole video all about Anne and my love of Anne and the books. So in case you ever wanted to know anything about Anne of Green Gables and my thoughts on them, this is a video for you. I absolutely adore the Anne of Green Gables series. It was kind of one of the staples of my childhood. My mom had us read them when we were young, growing up. I think about 5th grade, 6th grade, I think she had us read them. Plus, we grew up watching the original Megan Follows version of Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea. We had them on VHS back when tapes were a thing. So I grew up with Anne and I always had a big love for Anne and I loved her as a character from childhood on. And I've actually been rereading the series, so it's been great to revisit the series once again. And Anne just makes me happy. She just has such a wonderful outlook on life. The Anne of Green Gables series is about a young orphan Anne. The book starts off in Anne of Green Gables, the first book, when she's about 10, 11 years old, and she's an orphan and she is adopted by Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, who are an older brother and sister. I think in the first book they're in their 50s somewhere, and they want to adopt a child to kind of help her on the farm, and they're expecting a boy, but instead they get Anne, and they end up keeping her. And Anne kind of changes the lives of Marilla and Matthew and everybody else in Avonlea and the people around her, because she just has such a beautiful way of looking at life. She's full of spirit. She has a wonderful imagination. She kind of just brings out the best in everybody. And the stories basically follow Anne from childhood all the way up until adulthood, into her own children. And so you basically just get to follow the life of Anne. And there's a series of 8 books and then a couple of other little books. I think there's like a short story collection of various people who live in Avonlea life. She makes just even the littlest things seem super special, which I think is just a great way to live your life. I think Anne is kind of the epitome of how you should live your life. She lives in the moment, and every little thing is beautiful to her. She just looks at everything in a fresh new light. Even like the littlest flower to her can be this magnificent and beautiful creation. And I think that's just a wonderful way to view life and to kind of take that lesson and to apply it to our own lives, to kind of find an inner peace and to find beauty in the everyday world, especially when life can be ugly sometimes. There's a lot of ugly things that go on in the world. There's a lot of hurtful things that happen. There's a lot of painful things that we all go through. And so just finding the little things in life to embrace and to love and to find beauty in it, I think is something that we can all take away from Anne. And I think the reason why I always go back to her books, and when I'm wanting to be cheered up and want something happy, I always go to the Anne of Green Gables books, because it kind of makes you think about the little things. It kind of makes you take a step back and to just live more in the moment and to breathe and to appreciate the sky, whether it be sunny or a stormy day, or to look at a tree and appreciate it for its beauty and the fact that it's living and existing in this world of ours that can sometimes be ugly in the things that occur. I think Anne of Green Gables is definitely a series that anybody can enjoy. It doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter what your background is. I think it's definitely a series that a lot of people can enjoy. I know some people think that it's sickeningly sweet. I've never found it to be so. I think it's simply sweet, and that's something that I really enjoy about the series as a whole. So the Anne of Green Gables series, as I said before, is made up of 8 books. The first one is Anne of Green Gables, and I have the set which has like the more traditional covers you might be familiar with. I really one day want to get the Canadian covers from Chapters Indigo, these covers, because they're so cute, but they're really hard to find and they're really expensive. But I adore these covers as well, because these are the ones that I am used to and I grew up with, and they are like that nice shiny slick covers. Anyway, that's an aside. That's for another video. But the first book is Anne of Green Gables. Book 2 is Anne of Avonlea. Book 3 is Anne of the Island. Book 4 is Anne of Windy Poplars. Book 5, and one of my favorites, is Anne's House of Dreams. Book 6 is Anne of Ingleside. Book 7 is Rainbow Valley. And then finally book 8 is Rilla of Ingleside. And this one actually follows one of Anne's daughters. So this is an 8-book series. There are a couple of other additional books that you can find, which are like short story collections that feature various characters from Avonlea. But if you guys want to know my ranking of these books and which ones I like from most to least, I'm going to give it to you now. So my favorite of all the books is the first one. It's Anne of Green Gables. I tend to like the first books in series, like The Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite in the Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone is my favorite in the Harry Potter trilogy, one of my favorites. So I tend to like first books, I like beginnings, I hate endings, so you'll typically find that I enjoy the first book in a series the most, and Anne of Green Gables is no exception. I just love how the story starts off when Anne is a child, and I don't know, I just love it. It gives me all the warm fuzzies. My second favorite is Anne's House of Dreams. This one takes place when Anne is older and is starting out on her life, and I love this book because I love the side characters and the various little backgrounds to those side characters, and I love the place in which this one takes place because it doesn't take place in Avonlea. So I just love everything about it. It's actually one of the shorter books too, but I just love this one, and it's a good mixture of sad and happy in this book. There are some very sad things that occur in this particular book, but I think it makes those happy moments all the more sweeter, and so that's why this one is also one of my favorites. My next favorite is actually going to be Anne of Avonlea. This is the second book, book 2. I really love this one. Anne is more of a teenager. I think she's this between the ages of like 16 and 18 in this one. So she's definitely becoming a young woman, and I love how her outlook on life kind of starts to change and become a little bit more grown up. She still has her wonderful imagination, her love of life, but it starts to become a little bit more mature, and it's really great to see in this book. My next favorite is book 3, and that is Anne of the Island. This one, Anne is off to college with some of her young friends. She meets new friends, and she's really starting out on her own life and becoming a young independent woman in this one. And I really love this one because Anne kind of gets herself into a few scrapes, and it's like all those mistakes that you make when you're in your young 20s, and Anne makes them too, but it's hilarious watching her kind of try and get out of them. And it's in your like young 20s when you start to learn that nobody really knows what they're doing, and everybody's kind of trying to make their own way in life, and it's how you go about making your own way in life that really kind of grows you as a person, and I think that's why I really enjoy this book in the series. My next favorite is Anne of Ingleside. This one is book 6, and it takes place quite a bit later after the 5th book in the series. So Anne now has 5 children, and the story is definitely taken off. She's a young mother, and you get to see more of her children. And you start to see Anne's next chapter in life as a young mother and a wife and raising her children. You start to see her children kind of start to grow up, and it's just a really, really lovely story, and just a continuation of Anne's life that I enjoy. My next favorite is book 8, and that is Rilla of Ingleside. This one actually primarily focuses on Rilla, which is Anne's youngest daughter, I believe. I haven't reread this one yet, so it's been a while. So it primarily focuses on her. I believe she's about 16, 17 in this book, and just kind of her relationship with her family and her siblings, and she's kind of starting out in that same path that Anne was starting out in book 3, where she's starting to kind of come into her own, become a young woman, see what the world is really about, and take on more responsibilities. And again, it's just a lovely story, and she's a good contrast to Anne, I think, and I love it. I love it so much. Next favorite is Rainbow Valley. This one is primarily focused on Anne's young children, of which she has 6 now. So you do have Anne and Gilbert in this one as well, but it definitely starts to focus more on the children, which of course leads into Rilla of Ingleside when all of her children are primarily grown up. But it's just kind of fun to see how what an influence Anne has on her children and their various personalities, and it's just another really lovely story. Not one of my favorites, but definitely still one of the more fun ones. And then my least favorite of all the Anne of Green Gables books is actually Anne of Windy Poplars. This is more of an epistolary novel, is that how you say it, when it's in letter format, because it's Anne writing to Gilbert. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it is letters, and I've never been a fan of that format, and so I always struggle with this one whenever I get to it in the series. It's the 4th book in the series, but I always struggle with it because I just kind of want it over because I'm not the biggest fan of letters being told as a story. This one also always feels a little bit like a filler novel for me, so it feels like Ella Montgomery was just kind of trying to fill space and continue the story, which I do know. I know that these stories were immensely popular at the time. She was being requested to write more stories when she wasn't really feeling like writing them, and I think it kind of starts to show in this one. But then books 5 and 6 definitely kind of pick up again. So though this one isn't my favorite, it's still nice to be with Anne and see her outlook on life, but it's definitely not one of my favorites in the series. So as I'm sure you guys can tell from this video, I absolutely love this series. These books mean a lot to me. They're just books that make me feel happy and at peace. And these books as such were definitely a product of their time, so you do want to keep that in mind when you're going into these books, but I still find them to be enjoyable despite some of the issues they may have. But I don't know, Anne will always have a special place in my heart. I think part of them might be nostalgia because I grew up with it, but I love it to bits, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the new Netflix series will be like. I know that they are taking it and making it something new, so they said that they will be straying from the novels, but I'll be interested in see how they do that. And I like who the cast is Anne. She seems like the the perfect Anne to me when I've watched the trailer for it, so I'm going into it cautiously optimistic because the Megan Fowles one will probably always be my favorite, and I think it'll be hard to beat that. But anything will be better than the movie that PBS put on Thanksgiving, because that was terrible, and Martin Sheen should never have been cast as Matthew. It was awful. It was awful. It was the worst version of Green Gables I've ever seen. So if it's better than that, I will be happy. We shall see. Alright guys, that is my video about Green Gables and like why I enjoy them. And I don't know, maybe you guys enjoyed it. It was kind of a random video, but I kind of feel like talking about Anne because I feel like she doesn't get talked about or read enough, and I just find these books to be really enjoyable, kind of good comfort reads. That's the word I'm looking for. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and kind of seeing my perspective on the series and the show. And if you guys want to throw anything down in the comments, please feel free to do so. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!